What's up? What's up? What's up, you guys? Welcome back. And as we round down this season, we're also rounding down with all of our interviews of our co-authors for the Dear Black Woman Anthology project. And one of our last interviews today is with Mauryunna Brown. So again, welcome to the Dear Black Woman podcast, a space where healing, truth, and sisterhood come together. In today's episode, we're going to sit down with Mauryunna Brown, a co-author of the Dear Black Woman Anthology project. Her letter to her inner child is both a promise and a pathway, one of release, healing, and self-compassion. Mauryunna opens up about her journey to forgive herself and others and the freedom she's discovered in letting go of resentment. This is a conversation about courage, love, and the power of choosing peace. So without further ado, let's welcome Mauryunna to the show.
Hi.
Hello, Mauryunna.
Hi.
How are you today?
I am doing well. How are you?
Awesome. Let's get started. So first of all, thank you for joining us. Can you share what inspired you to write your letter to your inner child for the Dear Black Woman Anthology project?
So what inspired me was at the time I was really in a transitioning phase of my life, and I felt that me writing the letter to my inner child would be a way for me to release and align with the version of myself that I desired to be. So that's why I initially started the project. But as I went on throughout the project and started writing, it had a different meaning for me.
Okay. Now, in your letter, you open up about affirming that you are enough. What was important for you to start there?
So I think that for me, starting with acknowledging that I am enough and acknowledging and pouring into every other Black woman and every Black woman's inner child, right, as well as my own, that you are enough was so important, because a lot of times we feel as though we're not enough. We feel as though our feelings don't matter, our trauma doesn't matter, and whether that's, something that's been projected onto us or just the trials and the tribulations that we've experienced in life. I know for myself, that's what it was for me. Things have been projected onto me where I felt as though I wasn't enough at times, and I felt as though I was unworthy. So me reminding myself that first and foremost, let's remember that you are enough. You're enough to be a part of this project. You're enough to write this letter to yourself. You deserve to be heard. Your voice does matter. So let's start there. That's why that was important for me.
Okay, now let's circle back and talk about a little bit about your childhood and early experiences. Now, in your letter, you mentioned comparisons from family about your appearance and choices. How did those voices sort of affect your relationship with yourself growing up?
Oh, man. So a lot of it, when I was younger, it really made me not like myself, to be honest. I disliked myself. I, at one point, hated myself. I hated everything about myself. I hated my facial features. I hated my lips. Like, it just made me dislike everything about myself. But as I got older and I started to realize, my features are what make me unique. I don't have to take on other people's projections, because a lot of times other people's projections and the things that they say to us are their own insecurities. They're projecting their own insecurities, their own feelings about themselves or what they've experienced. So I don't have to take on the trauma and the pain from their experiences as my own. But as a child, it was really difficult for me to have self-esteem and love those parts of myself. I was always doing things to try to make myself look different or be more acceptable. At the time, I had really long hair. I would always straighten my hair because they'd be like, oh, nobody wants nappy hair. Nobody wants to see nappy hair, and I would just wear my hair straight all the time. But eventually I was like, okay. And my hair became like a staple of my personality. So I cut it off because I was like, I'm not my hair. My hair is not my beauty. It doesn't define me.
Okay, so India, Irie, I'm not.
Yes. So it doesn't define me. It doesn't, it's not a staple of who I am.
That's very true. That's very true. As a cancer survivor, I actually found that out to be one of the most important things, but it's a big part of our beauty, especially in the Black culture. We're taught that's also a way that we assimilate with other cultures as well, by straightening our hair and not having the pride of our natural hair, to the point that we literally had to have a law passed stating that we could wear our hair in its natural state. So
yes.
yeah. Now, you also wrote about your you witnessing your mother's struggles at such a young age. How did those early experiences sort of shape your sense of self-worth?
So at the time, I didn't really understand what that meant, self worth. But what it did as a child, it gave me strength. It made me strong. It made me have to stand on my own 2 feet and have to like really be steadfast, whether that was through, survival mechanisms or whatever, it still gave me that strength, that perseverance, that, behind who I am. So I can say that being a witness of my mom's struggles, it made me realize what I didn't want to do, who I didn't want to be, the things that I didn't want to carry into my own life and my adulthood. But it also gave me strength. As far as my self worth and things like that, I didn't really understand what that was until I got older. Honestly, recently, really understanding how watching my mom struggle with the projections and with her addiction and things, how it really hindered the way that she saw herself. And it wasn't even so much of her addiction being what hindered her, it was the things that caused her addiction that hindered her from being able to see herself as the strong Black woman that she was. And I saw that and I was like, not allowing my struggles or my pain or the projections of others, which is a lot of what it was for me, to become my identity became very, very prominent in my healing. I can say that as I got older and as I started to evolve and grow and process through my childhood trauma. So I think that now that's how it made me realize like, okay, I don't have to take that on. I don't have to, allow outside influences to become my truth, and I can define my own self-worth for myself. That's what it did for me in my adulthood. But as a child, it gave me strength. It pushed me. It made me have to be strong. It made me have to, learn how to set boundaries. But even in that, unlearning certain boundaries, because you learn to put up certain walls and certain boundaries in your trauma self that you have to unlearn in your healed self. So it's a journey for sure.
Yep, yep. Now, we named your chapter or your letter in the book The Power of Words. And you emphasize that your voice is power. How did you learn to reclaim your voice after years of criticism and comparison?
Oh man, one day something just clicked. It wasn't like I had this long drawn out thing where I was like, oh my voice is powerful. It was like I was in a space of feeling like I was tired of being silenced. I was tired of feeling as though my words didn't matter, my voice didn't matter. And one day I just said, okay, I'm done with that. Like it's like a switch just went off, and I was like, I'm done. I just made the decision, and I think that's so important for us to realize is that sometimes it's not something that's long and drawn out. It's not something that's, big and profound. Sometimes it's just that you make the decision to change. You make the decision to say, okay, this is no longer what I want to identify with, and that's okay. And I'm deciding to change that about myself, So that's exactly what happened for me. And once that happened, from there, I stopped allowing other people to silence my voice and silence my truth.
Okay, now let's focus on words again. You also wrote that prayer is words filled with intention. How does that understanding sort of guide how you speak over your life today?
Well, I believe that all words have meaning and everything is about intention. The intention of what you do and what you say is the most important thing for you, right? Prayer is just intention amplified, is what I say. It's that intention where you go within yourself and you're speaking to God or, whoever it is that you pray to, and you're putting forth a more powerful intention behind what you say. It's like you're focusing more. And I think that the more that you pour into that and the more power you put behind your words, the more intention you put behind your words, it makes the frequency of what you're saying or the energetic push out into the universe or out into the world more powerful, So for me, with me saying that prayers are words filled with intention, it is me saying that my words are being said with complete intention, with power behind them, and with the intention for them to bring transformation, with the intention to bring answers, to bring clarity. Whatever it is that I am praying about or praying for, that is what I intend to happen behind that. And I feel like it's the intention of it is really just the energetic push out into the world, out into the universe, to say, hey, this is what I'm putting out and this is what I want back.
So. Okay. Now, in your letter, you wrote about forgiveness. You said forgiveness is not about forgetting it. Forgiveness is about liberation. Can you explain what that means to you?
So with forgiveness not being about forgetting, because a lot of times, you can forgive someone and say, I'm no longer harboring that pain. I'm no longer carrying the weight of the pain or the situation or whatever it is that happened with me. But I also can't forget what happened either. The forgetting is where you can't necessarily separate yourself, because you'll always remember that circumstance or that situation. It left an imprint on you. It left a mark on you, and for good reason. If you allow it to teach you a lesson, then you wouldn't want to forget it, because you would always want to remember, hey, what did I learn from this? What did this teach me? But forgiveness is for yourself, of course. You don't want to continue to hold on to all of the pain, all of the struggle, all of that weight. It's kind of like bag lady energy. You don't want to carry all of that with you, because then that makes it harder for you to pick up anything better. If you're carrying all of the dead weight with you, how can you pick up any good things to come in the future? How can you pick up anything that's positive? How can you pick up anything or make room for anything that is new? So you don't want to carry that with you. So forgiveness is always for you. And I think that that's so important to remember, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm not going to forgive that person, thinking about the other person. And the forgiveness is not for them. Forgive them. It's about you.
Yeah, it lifts a weight off of you.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than you carrying all of that. Now, what were the hardest parts of forgiving yourself?
The hardest parts of forgiving myself, I think, were allowing myself to be in situations that were not good for me. Because, even when you don't know better, when you start to learn it and you realize that now you do know better, you're like, man, I just kind of wish I didn't put myself there, because I wouldn't have gone through certain things, or I wouldn't have had to experience certain things. But also in that, finding peace in that same thing. If I hadn't experienced that, who would I be? If I hadn't gone through what I went through, where would I be? So I think that at the beginning of my journey of learning to forgive myself, that was the hard part of me being hard on myself and saying, man, why didn't we just make better choices? Why didn't we, just not do this? But when you know better, you do better. And when you don't, there's nothing that you can really do about that. So I think that was the hardest part for me at the beginning, but you learn to find peace and balance in it.
Okay, now that you said that, how do you balance forgiving others without allowing them to re-enter spaces that could actually harm you again?
And that's where boundaries come in. In order for you to be able to forgive someone, you can say, hey, I forgive you, I love you, but I love me more. Okay, so me loving me more is me saying, okay, I'm not going to allow myself to put myself in those situations. Going back to what was the hard part of me forgiving myself. I'm not going to allow myself to continue those cycles, put myself in situations that are not good for me, put myself in relationships and places that are not good for me. Even though I may love you, even though I may care for you, you're not good for me. So that's when your self-love kicks in. That's when your boundaries kick in, and you have to say, there's a limit. My mama used to say, love people with a long handle spoon. So sometimes you just have to love people with a long handle spoon.
All right, now let's talk about healing and self-compassion. You spoke about promising your inner child a safe space. How has keeping that promise changed the way you live today?
Keeping my promise to myself to create a safe space within myself looks like me allowing myself to give myself grace, not be hard on myself all the time. Speak to myself and with myself with compassion, with love, and with honesty, and not fussing at myself. Sometimes you can be so mean to yourself, Well, at least I could. I could be so mean to myself.
Yeah,
I
we
could
are
be
our biggest critics and our
right.
biggest judges. So
Mhm.
what I always tell people is if you think I'm tough love with you, I'm equally or if not more harder with myself. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So the thing that I've learned to do is even sometimes I still struggle with that. So that's another thing. The journey is not perfect. It's always, up
Well,
and down.
it's not even that. It's a journey. It's exactly what you
Mhm.
said. It's not a destination. It's a journey. So it's never gonna look the same way, and it's always going to be something you're learning, something you're relearning, something you're unlearning as a
Right.
part of the process.
Exactly. And I'm learning to even still just give myself grace, not fuss at myself, not, chastise myself, but be in a space where I'm like, hey, this is what we can do better and this is how we're going to implement it, and giving myself strategy and giving myself, that discipline to be able to get things done, even with healing, you a lot sometimes you don't want to face the things that are hard to face. You don't want to face those troubling memories of the past, but you have to in order for
Yeah.
you to stop carrying that weight with you. So being disciplined and having a strategy, not allowing yourself to spiral, things like that. So yeah, that's yeah.
Now I know you say about discipline and strategy, but how does compassion for yourself and for others sort of play in your ongoing healing journey?
So being compassionate for myself and for others looks like me giving myself grace to be human. Like I'm not perfect. I'm not a project. And other people aren't either. They're human, and a lot of my story talked about my parents and about other relationships that I was in. And I had to learn to see them as human, especially as people, we sometimes look at our parents and put them on a pedestal because they're our parents, but they're also human. And so me learning how to give myself that compassion to be able to say, hey, you're human. It's okay. You're not going to be perfect. Everything's not going to be perfect. You're not going to be on the straight and narrow all the time. That's okay. You have to also understand that other people won't be that way either. They're going to make mistakes. They're learning, they're evolving, they're growing, they're becoming different people the same way that you are. So, just give them a little bit of compassion, give them some grace, understand that they're still people, but set your boundaries at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to tolerate certain things. You don't have to be in certain spaces. You don't have to accept certain things, but also set those boundaries for yourself and also know like, hey, they're still human. I don't have to be judgmental. I don't have to be judgmental of myself. I don't have to be judgmental of others. I can be compassionate. I can show grace, and I can see you as just who you are as a person, meeting you where you are, accepting that, and deciding whether I want to continue to allow myself to be in this space or remove myself, even with myself. Do I want to allow myself to continue to be the person that I'm being? Do I like the habits that I have? Do I like the thoughts that I'm having? I can show this version of myself or that version of myself compassion, but I have to make the decision if I'm going to stay there or separate myself.
Okay.
Boundaries.
Now, in your conclusion, you say forgiveness has set me free. What does freedom
Mhm.
look like for you now compared to before?
Freedom looks like peace. It looks like me not staying up all night. It looks like me not crying all the time. It looks like me not being stressed out. It looks like me not over worrying and over analyzing and being on high alert in every situation. It looks like peace in my mind, my heart, my soul, my spirit. That's what freedom looks like for me. Being able to say, I'm free. I'm not harboring the pain that happened to me. I'm not carrying the weight of all of the things that I've endured. I've allowed myself to grow through that. I've allowed myself to heal through that and let that go. And I'm opening myself up to new experiences, to see new things, to learn new lessons, and even in that, not hold on to the heaviness of it, but to appreciate it for what it is and keep living.
What do you hope Black women who read or hear your story take away from your words?
Oh, what I hope Black women that read my story take away is that one, you are enough. Your voice deserves to be heard, and you are the author of your own book. You get to decide how this goes for you. You get to decide what it is that you continue to indulge in, what you get to take with you as your agreements, what you're in alignment with, what it is that you take as your own energy. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay stagnant. You don't have to continuously go in a circle of, cycles and wondering why these things keep happening to you. It's okay for you to do the deep diving, but it's also okay for you to give yourself grace, give other people grace, love yourself, let it go. It's okay. But also speak your truth. Like, don't allow anyone to silence you. It's okay for you to use your words. It's okay for you to, use your voice and be who you are. Simple.
Okay, now if you could speak directly to another Black woman who's listening, who is struggling to forgive herself or someone else, what would you say to her?
I would tell her that she is human. She is not someone that does not deserve the forgiveness. No matter what she did, she still deserves to be loved. She still deserves to be heard. She still deserves to be. And it's okay that you did something wrong. It's okay that you put yourself in situations that you may not have wanted to be in. It's okay that you may not be where you want to be. That's okay. Allow yourself to journey. Allow yourself to be human. Give yourself some grace. It is okay. You're not expected to be perfect. Perfectionism is unrealistic. So instead of you beating yourself up, instead of you harboring on yourself and making yourself feel worse than what you already do for what happened or what's going on, just allow yourself to move forward from that. Take the lesson and move forward. There's no point in you holding on to it. There's no point in you continuously living in the past. We're right here in the present. The past is gone. Like, allow it to be gone. Allow that to, be done for. Allow yourself to move past all of that and be right here, right now. Find something to be happy about right now. You're alive, you're breathing, you can see, you can move your legs, you can move your arms, you can speak, you can taste, you can touch, you can hear. Those are all things for you to be grateful for. Find something to be grateful for in this moment and allow yourself to forgive yourself because you deserve it. You're worthy. You're worthy of being forgiven. You're worthy of forgiving yourself. And you are worthy of love. You're worthy of healing. You're worthy of all of the beautiful things that you desire.
Okay. Now, why was it important for you to share this deeply personal journey in this anthology?
It was super important for me. When I came into it wasn't so much of me sharing it with the world, to be honest. It was me allowing myself to share me, allowing myself to be open with myself and then allowing other people to see my story. It was more so a challenge for me. It was more so a promise to myself that this is me standing in what I said, standing in your voice matters, your story matters, standing in the energy of practicing what you preach, being that example of it's okay for you to say what you need to say because what you have to say matters, your story matters, how you feel matters, the things that you process through, they matter. So allowing myself to be heard, this was really just a testament to me. And with me writing the testament to me, and I just put it out in hopes that maybe someone else will see it and it'll help them as well, but it was more so for me than it was anyone else.
Okay. Now, how has being a part of this project sort of affirmed or expanded your healing journey?
Oh, being a part of this project has helped me see myself in such a different light. It has helped me to expand and see the gifts that I have, the power that I have to stand firm in my truth, to be who I know myself to be, and to act like I know who I am, and to be in that energy. Like, you don't have to be afraid. You can be confident. You can, stand in your energy. You don't have to shy away from who you are. It's really taught me to explore new opportunities. It's taught me to be okay with, not being okay. It's taught me to accept other people as they are. You know, it's taught me so much throughout this entire journey of being a part of this anthology. And I am super grateful for this opportunity, truly.
Okay, now tell people where they can find you online.
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook. My Facebook is Maury Brown. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at M_the_THEE Alchemist. So yeah, that's all my social media.
All right, you guys, you can also find Maury's story in the Dear Black Woman Anthology, which drops this month. Well, whenever, I don't know when you're listening, but it drops September the 20th. You can get it online at dearblackwoman.me. And again, thank you so much, Maury, for being a part of this project and for being on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Listen, you guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Dear Black Woman podcast. Maury's story sort of reminds us that forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about liberation. It's about reclaiming the space in our hearts that pain once occupied. If her journey spoke to you, we invite you to share this episode with another listener who may need these words. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with us at Dear Black Woman Media on all of your social media platforms. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep choosing healing, and remember, dear Black woman, you are enough.